Hello, BookTube. It's Wednesday, and that's New Comic Book Day. The day that once upon a time, back in the 1990s when I was a small child, I would take my hoarded up quarters and go to the local store to get the week's comic books. Marvel and DC superhero comic books. But it's also Wednesdays are Epic Comic Book Wednesdays team up in honor of that New Comic Book Day between myself and Michael K. Vaughan, where every Wednesday we talk about some kinds of comic books. The event started out on his channel, where he was talking about Marvel's epic collection of full-color reprints of their huge back catalog. And I liked the idea so much that I horned my way in. And we still do quite a few epic collections. Marvel comes out with at least 2 every week. But we have broadened our horizons. We do all sorts of other things as well. But today, in honor of the 4th of July, we are going back to our roots and looking at an epic collection. This is Captain America, Hero or Hoax. With a Sal Buscema cover. He really should not do covers. He's terrible at them. I don't know what Captain America is planning to do on this cover. If you feel like it, try assuming that position. When you try to get out of it in order to punch the Red Skull or leap out of the way of the Death Ray, you will fall over. That is not a normal position at all. But nevertheless, these are from the 1970s, long before I was born. And they deal with a tempestuous period in Captain America's life. Just a quick thumbnail up to speed on this character, although no one needs it anymore. It's just a reviewer's reflex. No one needs it anymore because of the movie with Chris Evans. But Captain America was created by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon in the 1940s as a patriotic, comic book selling superhero fighting the Nazis. And in the 1960s, Stan Lee had the inspired idea that Captain America is found by the super team, the Avengers, in suspended animation. And they wake him up, and he's just fine, and he joins the team. 20 years displaced in time. And no matter how long that time has continued, that is still staying true. So, World War II now, of course, is 80 years in the past. Captain America is still a relic out of time. And some writers, more than others, make hay with that idea. They go to great lengths to give Captain America pathos because he's suddenly a man displaced. We don't get any of that in Stan Lee's original run with Captain America. The most that Stan Lee ever did was to make Captain America pine for his teenage sidekick, Bucky, who did not survive World War II. So Captain America is without him. There's precious little done in those early years. There's precious little done with the fact that Captain America would have had lots of other friends and maybe relatives. And they'd all almost certainly still be alive. They'd just be really old. That's never dealt with at all. It's only later that Captain America starts to go maudlin for his lost teenage sidekick, and sometimes maudlin for being a man out of time. Who am I in this new era when I'm not Captain America? I can't just be Captain America 24 hours a day. I don't know why that's true. According to the greatest book ever written, the official handbook of the Marvel Encyclopedia of the Marvel Universe, Captain America's super soldier form, the formula that made him into Captain America, eliminates body toxins. It's one of the things that super formula does, is to make sure that his body is never building up toxins, not even on a cellular level, much on a muscular level, so it doesn't actually get tired. If your body isn't building up those kinds of toxins, technically Captain America wouldn't even need to sleep. So he could be Captain America 24 hours a day, but in these issues, these are from the 1970s, a turbulent era in American history, nowhere near as turbulent as the 2020s, but still pretty turbulent. And Marvel Comics writers, some of them, wanted to inherit the horrible virus that Stan Lee imparted into superhero comics of making them relevant. Steve Englehart, who does quite a bit of the scripting, credited or otherwise, in the issues collected here, had that virus, full-blown. So, in addition to fighting the Red Skull and Baron Nemo's children, or the Scorpion, or Mr. Hyde, or whoever, the Captain America in these issues is also dealing with Harlem. with inner city race relations, with an incredible loss of faith in the U.S. government that was part of the 1970s. In the early issues in these that are reprinted here, I think this is 159 to 179 of Captain America's run. In the early issues, we actually see that the President of the United States is Richard Nixon. And it's a pre-disgrace Richard Nixon. It's a pre-Watergate Richard Nixon, where he's drawn in caricature. He says, let me make one thing perfectly clear. The taglines that make no sense now to readers in 2022. No reader in 2022 is going to get that or know what it means. They're not going to know why Nixon keeps saying that. They're also not going to get most of the references here. Englehart was a very, very topical writer. Aside from, there's one mention, I think, of Willie Mays, but most of the other characters in here, you're not going to have any idea who they are. At one point in one of these issues, some thugs quip that Captain America isn't even human, for a reason we're going to be getting to. And he says, hey, I'm as human as the next guy. I watch All in the Family every week. So these things are dated in a way, but mostly in a good way. These are high-octane issues, really, really involved, exciting storylines. Here, that was the cover of the issue, but I want to show you some of the artwork, because in these issues, the art is all over the map. The artwork eventually devolves to Sal Buscema, the younger brother of the great John Buscema, and a very good workman-like comic book artist, probably the greatest workman-like comic book artist, unless you count George Perez, which fans don't like to do, but I think Perez wouldn't mind that distinction. Wouldn't have minded that distinction. But at the beginning, before we get Sal Buscema doing very, very energetic artwork, I'm not criticizing it at all, but before we get that, we get John Romita Sr. drawing Captain America. And we don't just get, I mean, that's a treat anyway, though some of you will know here, let me show you, there's an issue that's not in this volume, where John Romita Sr. is most famous for his portrayal of Spider-Man. A great portrayal of Spider-Man, one of the best ones ever done. You've got Ditko, Steve Ditko, you've got John Romita Sr. I would put Ross Andrew in there, but you've also got John Romita Jr., John Romita Sr.'s son, who is one of the greatest Spider-Man artists of all time. And in the issue right before this epic collection starts, Spider-Man guest stars. So if back in the 70s, you were a completist for John Romita Sr. drawing Spider-Man, as I was, you would have got this issue even if you didn't all that much like Captain America. But in the first issue that we get here, we get John Romita Sr. drawing Captain America. And he's not just drawing Captain America, he's also inking his own artwork. And most of you, even comic book fans, are not going to care about that, and I bet there's a lot of you without some practice wouldn't be able to pick out when that's true and when it's not. But oh my, it is a trumpet going off. This is, for instance, a splash panel. I don't know how well the artwork's going to render in this light, but I want to show you. Let me give you an example of. I don't know how much it's going to work. This is Captain America talking with a police commissioner. I don't know how much you're going to see. Well, actually, take a look at these panels. Look at that. Oh, my God. Look at how beautiful that is. That is just beautiful. Look at that. Now, take a look at that. That is John Romita Sr. drawing his own stuff. Those are old metal trash cans. And inking his own stuff. Now, through the wonders of modern technology, let's go to a subsequent issue in which he's drawing but not inking. Okay, here we go. This is from 2 issues later when he's being inked by Joe Sinnott, who's very much an inker along John Romita Sr.'s own lines, but it's not the same, right? This, I don't know if you can make out the difference. It's not the same. It looks different. And there's a reason why. I'll show you the reason why. It gets much worse when Romita gets a scratchy inker, like Vince Colletta. Then it gets much worse. But that's the panel that we saw originally. Compare that with what we just saw. Look at all the darkness in there. John Romita Sr. is heavy on the dark inking, the shadowing, when he's inking himself. Notice how not just the shadows in all of the stonemasonry that another inker simply would not have put there, but notice the shadow on Captain America's chest. due to the lighting, the shadow highlights the star. Romita puts that in shadow on his chest. It's little things like that that really make his own artwork, when it's inked by him, just beautiful, just fantastic. And we get that artwork, that crop. John Romita Sr. Inking himself. I think these are some of the last times that he did it, except for guest appearances in Spider-Man decades later. But we get that. We get him being inked by himself. We get him being inked by others that aren't. I mean, Joe Sinnott's really good. Others aren't quite a good match with his artwork. And then the artwork, there are a couple of subs, but the artwork then changes to Sal Buscema. And there are two major plot lines that happen throughout these issues. There are some subs here. There's one guy whose work I don't know at all. There is a sub by Gil Kane. But let me get you to Sal Buscema here. Yeah, they shouldn't let him do covers. His covers are not good. But this issue, I remember reading this on the stairs. This is number 153. This cost me 20 cents. I thought that was highway robbery. And at the beginning of this issue, Captain America and the Falcon, who is his partner, there's Falcon with Red Wing. These are in the issues before Falcon decides that he needs an upgrade. Doesn't happen organically at all. He just decides, I need superpowers to be a name in this game. I'm just right now an athletic guy. I need superpowers to stay in this game. Something to put me on level with the enemies that I'm facing. And instead of going hat in hand to Tony Stark for advanced technology, he goes to T'Challa, the Black Panther. He goes to Wakanda. Which I thought it isn't. There's no drum beating about it. There's no sanctimony about it. There's certainly no racism about it the way it would happen today in 2022. That would be at that moment would be larded in racism of the kind that is fashionable in the 21st century. In 2022, it has never been more fashionable to be just openly racist, provided you pick the right targets, provided you have the crowd at Twitter at your back instead of against you, instead of remembering what your grandparents taught you, which is that two wrongs don't make a right. There's no such thing as the right kind of racism. But anyway, instead, the moment here is done perfectly well. The Falcon doesn't, I don't think in these issues that he ever explicitly says it, but the origin could not be clearer, that he doesn't want to be taking a white man's handouts. When the king of a super sophisticated black kingdom in Africa is willing to help him. And it's because of that he gets his famous wings. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he gets those from Stark handoffs. Just like the villains, the Vulture in Marvel Cinematic Universe basically has the same powers as the Falcon. And from the same source. But not in the comics. But in this issue, Sharon Carter and Captain America and the Falcon and Red Wing are all coming home to Captain America's apartment, and there's someone waiting. And it's Nick Fury, the one-eyed old warhorse from World War II. And he tells Captain America, I don't know if you remember it, but we were in the war together. They start fighting. In Captain America's apartment, they just start fighting each other. Nick Fury is under the impression that Captain America has romantic designs on the Contessa, on Val, who is Nick Fury, the love of Nick Fury's life. He thinks that Captain America is interested in his girl. And so they fight in an apartment, in just a normal apartment. And there's a fascinating moment when they're duking it out, throwing lampshades at each other and whatnot. Nick Fury says to him, Pal, do you know I used to be your age before you got yourself frozen solid for 20 years? I kept on living, fighting for my country. Through World War II, the Korean War, the Cold War, I lived those 20 years, getting gray for America. And then you popped up, all blonde, blue-eyed, and young. That's terrific. As is typical in these issues, it isn't explored. But you do get Sal Buscema action sequences, which tend to be really, really good. This is a really kinetic, engaging artist, but a lazy one. In a way that, for instance, John Romita Sr. is not. You practically had to sit on Sal Buscema to get him to do backgrounds for instance. And as a result, if you're not sitting on him, then panel after panel after panel in these issues just doesn't have any background. It's just two characters doing whatever. When he does them well, same as his brother, but neither Buscema had much interest in doing them. You had to sort of work at it. But there are two main plots in here and one twist at the end. One of the plots here is not intended. It's happening issue by issue. And that is a gradual process of self-discovery for Sam Wilson, the Falcon. When we meet him, he's got a green jumpsuit costume on. He has a normal rope that you would buy at a hardware store that he uses to swing himself across town. That's actually almost impossible to do. And he does it all the time here. Sometimes not even with a rope, sometimes with a wire. Holding it in one hand. In one scene, he's holding the wire in one hand while he carries Captain America in the other hand. That would simply rip the flesh and bone off his hand. There's no argument with physics. There's no way to cord your way around town. There's just no way to do it. And so I'm glad that later, rather than sooner, the writer, the Englehart especially, decided to give Falcon some sort of ability. Even if it's technology, give him some sort of ability. There's also a growing thing here in these issues of maybe a second ability. Maybe Falcon has the connection that he has with his Falcon Red Wing is maybe superpowered. Maybe it's not just that he likes this bird and this bird likes him. It might be that he has the ability to communicate with the bird on some empathic level. That's taken to much greater extremes later on, but Englehart does start that, of fleshing out this character. They even renamed the book Captain America and the Falcon. That was because fans wanted it. Fans liked this character. A superhero who had panache, had a really, really well-designed costume. When he got those red underarm wings, he suddenly had a decent power set. He had Red Wing, had a personality of his own, very much liked and admired Steve Rogers, wanted to be his partner, but didn't want to take any guff, had a life of his own in Harlem, an on-again, off-again girlfriend of his own, contentious relations, not only with the bad guys in Harlem, but with some of the good guys. You think if you're palling around with not only a white guy, but the quintessential white guy, Captain America, you must be a sellout, an Uncle Tom. The kind of adult, searing, bare-knuckled, intelligent race talk that could not be done now. Absolutely could not be done in Marvel Comics now. Marvel Comics writers now are terrified of black people. Terrified of them being trapped in an elevator with one, even for one floor, but also terrified of being told on Twitter that they don't love them enough. So all the black people in Marvel Comics are saints now. And that absolutely is not true here. Not even the Falcon is a saint. It's an amazing thing. I noticed it at the time, but it was rereading these issues for Epic Comic Book Wednesday that really brought it home to me. What a gradual and very well done evolution of the character this is. When it starts off, we know that Sam Wilson is largely a happy person and dedicated to doing the right thing. And like so many other people, he is thrilled to receive a vote of faith from Captain America. Even though at the time that he first receives that vote of faith, Captain America is trapped in some loser's body. It doesn't matter. Cap's ability to inspire others is definitely there. It doesn't matter what body he's in, and Falcon feels that. That's tremendously touching, but it's one note. He's introduced and then seen off. It's pretty clear that Englehart wasn't sure that the readers would like him. And they did. They liked him a lot, and so I could see why. I remember at the time when the title changed from Captain America to Captain America and the Falcon, I thought, okay, what's that all about, though? This is Captain America isn't one of the oldest characters that Marvel has. Why does he need to share billing? Then I realized, okay, but don't you like this? And I did. The answer is yes, I did. It's a terrific partnership. Terrific. And that grows throughout these issues. That is, it's not ever the focus of any one issue, but it grows. They have Captain America and the Falcon have their disagreements. They're two proud, strong-willed men. They have their disagreements. They don't always work well together. But it quickly, in the course of these issues, becomes absolutely natural to see. Which makes this splash page a little confusing. It's just because this is the other main plot line of these issues. Is that at one point, while Captain America is away, he's out of the country, Falcon knows that Steve Rogers is out of the country, and he sees Captain America beating up on someone in Harlem. He tries to stop him. The Captain America gets away, But the Captain America is pretty racist, and pretty awful, pretty undiluted John Birch society, and Falcon can't figure out why. And it just keeps getting worse because this Captain America has a Bucky. It's the duo from the 1940s, only they're not nice. They're evil. At one point, they kidnap the Falcon. They both are incredibly tough, incredibly strong. Even Bucky is just a boy. They're incredibly tough and incredibly strong, almost superhuman. They kidnap the Falcon and want to torture him for information. And he is saved by the guys in the neighborhood. Not all of whom are fans of his. They just don't want to let him go down to, Captain Fascism or whatever. So there's a huge fight between these two open racists and a crowd of black men. And, as capable of this Captain America and Bucky are, they're not able to do just anything. They have to flee. And by the time, here you have these great Sal Buscema covers where the Falcon breaks in to a local fat cat to talk to him about what's going on. It's all very, very well done. And it naturally leads to the climactic issue. Let me see if I can get to the climactic panel. You know that the climactic panel is going to happen. And you know pretty much what it's going to look like. It's a classic scene. I wish that it weren't so lazily drawn. I think Sal Buscema was probably hurried when he did this issue. It should look better than it does. Instead, you can see what I mean, right? It's very kinetic action, but look how there's almost no backgrounds. On this entire page, there's almost no backgrounds. And that gives it a very divorced kind of artist sketchbook feel that this issue ought to have. It ought to have none of it. And Captain America eventually faces off against his impostor, and beats him. Because there's only one Captain America. And the reason why, the explanation here is very clever. It's something I wouldn't expect of Steve Englehart, and I'd be willing to bet the original idea wasn't his. It has Roy Thomas all over it. The original idea is that for a little while, Captain America comic books did continue in the 1950s. But in the interval between then and the 1970s, Marvel's settled continuity had been that Captain America was out of action in the 1950s. He was in suspended animation during that time. So it had to be somebody else. So who was it? And it turns out it's this guy and his randomly picked sidekick who may have been overenthusiastic but normal until they are subjected to an imperfect duplicate of the super soldier experiment that made Captain America. We are largely led to believe that experiment is unduplicatable in its perfect form. That you can't make another Captain America without some weird side effect. Any more than you can make Captain America's shield. That also is a complete one-off, an accidental blending of vibranium and adamantium, so that you can't mass produce that shield. And because the scientist who created the super soldier formula was killed right after Captain America steps into the light of day, the standard idea at Marvel has been that both Cap and his shield are unduplicatable, and that when you try to duplicate them, it won't quite work. And that process doesn't quite work with this guy and his sidekick. It makes them crazy. It makes them super powerful, but crazy. Here, I want to get to another page here. Yeah, see, this is the panel I was talking about. That is simply not possible. That is not possible. A wire in one hand. You're holding 300 pounds in your other hand, and you're swinging with one arm. No. Give the Falcon wings, the ability to fly, as fast as possible. Do it as fast as possible. It doesn't happen in the issues in this volume, but it does eventually happen. But something else happens. At the very end of this epic collection, something else happens. Something that I, as a reader of Captain America, did not see coming at all. There's a villain who traps the Falcon on a rooftop, shoots him with a poison dart. Captain America shows up too late. Falcon is already poisoned, but Cap is assuming that the villain is such a coward that he carries the antidote with him at all times, in case something goes wrong and infects him. And he wants that antidote right away. And the villain says, all right, here you go. And Captain America says, good, yeah, that'll show you, and turns to administer it to the Falcon. The minute he turns his back, the villain shoots him with the poison as well. This is nothing better than lots of experience. Captain America survives. He crawls across the rooftop and gives the antidote to the Falcon and to himself, and survives. And then we get a left curve that I just did not see coming, which is that the poison interacts with the super soldier formula in Captain America's body, which, keep in mind, makes him a perfect physical specimen, but that's all. It doesn't make him superpowered. Unless the process is warped, that false Captain America and his false Bucky were borderline superpowered. They were far more powerful than the Falcon, for instance. But Captain America is not. The normal process doesn't make him that way. But that poison interacts with the super soldier formula already in his blood and gives him super strength. So we're going along in the Captain America storyline when suddenly Captain America has super strength. Not a huge amount, but far more than a normal human being. He says it himself. He jokes about it, says, well, I'm not going to give Thor a run for his money. But when he and Falcon are trapped behind an armored door, Cap grabs the door and pulls it off its hinges. It takes a lot of work to do, but he does. The Falcon says, Jack, that was tremendous. Because Captain America is suddenly super strong. Let me show you the moment when he realizes it. It's in the previous issue. When it's not anything that he automatically feels. He just has to figure it out. Good Lord, what's going on? I'm batting these hoods around like paper dolls. He slams one of them backhanded like that. They slam into a car, and we get a very good Sal Buscema panel where Cap is looking at what he did. I did that? They're not only KO'd, but the car is totaled. And that's when he realizes that that's the case. That was really terrific. Like most of the things that Steve Englehart did, it's not really well pursued. It sort of wears off. The super strength wears off. We do see it. It crosses over into the Avengers. The Avengers around this time worked it into the storyline. In little bits and pieces, in little ways. There's a wonderful scene where the Statue of Liberty has been badly damaged, and the Avengers are helping to fix it. And Captain America is holding up the crown of the Statue of Liberty. That's several tons. And he mentions, I may have, limited super strength, but I can't do this all day. It goes away, and no one ever actually pursues it in these issues. I don't know if anybody did in later Captain America storylines, but I mean, the Viper is the supervillain who shot Captain America. The vial is present. The antidote is present. The Viper is taken into cahoots. He is arrested. So, the boys at S.H.I.E.L.D. or, Star Labs or somebody could figure out what that is and give Captain America super strength all the time. It doesn't unseat his mind. It doesn't have any physical deleterious effects otherwise. So, why not figure out what it is and keep it? But they don't do that. Captain America goes back to being that. That has gradually shifted. I think the upper parameters of Captain America's physical capacity have changed, especially with the movie. With the movies where Captain America is clearly superhuman. He's not, drastically so, but he is clearly not just an ordinary human being. If you can hold a helicopter with one hand. But it's dropped and it's never dealt with again. But it does go on longer than these issues. It, in fact, is the impetus for Sam Wilson, the Falcon, to think, I need an upgrade. I'm less than nothing. I'm less than an impediment to a superpowered Captain America. I was hard enough holding my own anyway with the living legend of World War II. But if he's got super strength, I need more than what I have. Captain America tells him that's nonsense. You've got a good heart and you're an excellent fighter. That's all that anyone ever needs to be in Cap's eyes. But in later issues after this epic collection, the Falcon goes to Wakanda and gets wings that can fly. We don't know their upper limit. We don't know how fast he can fly. He doesn't seem to do much training with them. We are told that they're connected to his brain with a neocortex connection of some kind or other. It's never really explored, but it's not just a jetpack that he puts on. I think Englehart put that brain thing in there to get around that, to make sure that readers didn't think this is something that somebody could just take off the Falcon and use themselves. But that doesn't happen in this epic collection. Instead, we get all of these high-octane adventures with a fake Captain America. Terrific fun, terrific to revisit these. So this is not an Epic Comic Book Wednesday where Michael and I are disagreeing. But I have a feeling that it is going to be the last peaceful weekend for Epic Comic Book Wednesday in quite some time. Because we don't have that much longer to go before August. I think Michael is going to haul out a lot of garbage in August to go along with Garb August, where we are both co-hosts of the trashiest booktube event of all time. But that still leaves the month of July. So we'll see what happens next week. Could be something good, could be something terrible. You will be the first to know. We will tune in together and find out, because Michael's driving this car. But this was fun to revisit these issues and remember what it must have been like for my great-grandfather as a child to go and get them in the 1970s. Maybe he used a horse and buggy, something like that. Anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.